Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at Solana. This is going to be a lower time frame video. We do have a higher time frame video up above, so check that out if that's more what you're interested in. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. So the first thing I want to discuss here is the potential that we talked about in the macro, where we were actually looking at this as an A, looking for a B wave, and then looking for the C wave to the upside. So this is still valid really for as long as we hold this low of this $8.04. And what we could see is that this whole move here could just be a corrective pattern to the downside, where we could have actually completed this B wave already, looking now to potentially move to the upside. If this is the case, we'd be looking at this as a W and X, and then this is A, B, and C into this low. Now really until we actually break back above this previous B wave here, and preferably above this X wave here, we need to just be aware there is always potential we could still look to rather break down from this point, because as we discussed in the macro video, there is always the potential that we could have this rather the other way around, where this is actually a B wave to the upside, and what we are starting is our next leg to the downside, where this actually becomes a C wave from this point. So really until we actually break back above this 2606 region, I would just be cautious of the potential of us actually coming back down here one more time for a C wave. Even if we do move back to the upside here, we still need to be cautious, because for as long as we remain in this range here of this 37.15 to this 19.62, we can actually look for continuation to the downside in this C wave, which could potentially look to push us down towards this $6.92, or if it's a one-to-one with this as a Y wave, potentially this 4.78. So make sure you watch that video for more context on those moves. So now we're going to focus in a little bit more on this, and we're going to discuss a couple of the potentials here. So the first one I want to talk about is the potential for a move to the upside, where we're saying that we have a low in place here and we're looking to push up in a bigger way. So if we are looking at this in this way, we could argue something like this. Now, invalidation of continuation here would come by crossing this 1282 level. And what we'd be looking for within this count is actually treating this as an expanding diagonal, where this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is a fifth wave to the upside. So if this is the case and we're looking at this move in this way, what we'd then be looking for would actually be a 3-wave move to the downside. So we can see here that we actually have had a little bit of a move to the downside here already. So this could become A, we see B, and then we actually see a C wave to the downside, something along these lines. In which case, this could potentially take us down towards the 1744, though I would be very interested in keeping an eye on the 1717 level as a possible swing failure off of this low here. So if we do see price come back down into these lower levels here, this would actually align with bouncing on this 382 level, which would actually be here at the 1688. Now, if we have something like this in this place, where this is a wave 1 here, or an A wave, because it can be an A wave if we only get another move to the upside here towards this 2367 level, what I would be looking for is effectively that this whole move could become A, we see a B, and then we actually see this C wave come lower down here, looking to actually test out some of these lower levels within here. So the 50% would be an interesting level to me at this 1602. Obviously $16 as a whole number there could be a potentially interesting area, but as well as that, we have this level of retesting this zone of resistance and support here. So I would be keeping an eye on that. Alternatively, if we do look to push down deeper here, what we could actually see is this rather come into the 786, which actually be a back test of this trend line again, where we could potentially then look for that continuation from there. Now, it is also possible that we could look to extend out here, but if we just take out this low over here, that will invalidate the potential of this extension count. Now, if we're talking about that possibility of extending here, what we could actually see is something along these lines. So this looks a little bit more complicated. We're going to go over this. Now, what we actually have here is a series of 1s and 2s. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So invalidation of this as a count actually comes by crossing this 1563. And then what we'd be looking for within this count is effectively treating this move to the upside as the yellow wave 1 here. And we'd be looking for a 3-wave move down, where this is A, B, and C. So if we take this current high that we have, 1-to-1 would be this 1744, we would actually be looking to come back down here into this range, and that would look to actually bring us into this 50% level, which is sitting at the 1768 zone. So be keeping an eye on that as well. That could potentially look to actually retest some of these highs on the left hand side here. Going to be keeping an eye on that, but it would become very interesting to me, this swing low once again, if we do get something like this, where we get this as A, B, and we get a C wave, which actually comes back into this golden pocket area, which is the 1718 to the 1704, that would align with actually sweeping this low here, which we could actually see price come and do if it is going to look to move back to the upside. Now, the key thing is here, I want to see 3 waves down, want to hold this 1563, and then what we want to see from there is effectively a move up towards this 1618 at this 2561. So this would be looking for confirmation. If we lose this 1563, this count becomes invalidated. What I want to see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if we do see something like this, what we could actually see is that we could complete this wave 3 closer towards this 2.618 of the wave 1. The white wave 1 here, in which case we would then be looking for an additional 4th wave and a 5th wave, which could look to push us up towards this 3087 to this 2848 level. Now, if we do see something along these lines, we'd be then looking for that potential of an additional 4th wave, which could bring us back into this zone of this 2475 to this 2041 before looking for that final push up here towards this 3281 level. Now, we do have some potential resistance areas in here, or areas that we could actually see price move into. These have gotten some naked points of control in them, and these ranges are between this 2262 to this 2150. We have this 2396 to this 2328, this 2604 to this 2492, and then this finally this higher one here is this 2797 to this 2703 level. So these have got some interesting areas regarding the naked points of control within them. Okay, so if we are looking at this, I want to see, like I said, 3 waves down, then this continuation up. Now, another way we could potentially look at this is we could actually just argue this is corrective, where we say this is A, B, and C for a W wave. We have a corrective move down here for this X wave. And then what we're looking for is A, B, and then C. So within that same idea of the previous count here, if we do see 3 waves down, 1, 2, 3, and then we actually see another 5 wave move, but we actually failed to reach that zone that we discussed within the extension, this 2561. What we could actually see is the potential that this is just a corrective move, and we get this as A, B, we get a C wave back up into the top of this channel here, which would be this 2163, and then the 1-to-1 of the A wave would actually be this 2158. Now, I've based this off of coming into this golden pocket area like I did on the previous one. So if we just see this move up here in another single move where we actually only form a 3 wave move here, and we actually look to break this low, this would confirm the idea of this as just being a bigger corrective structure here. Now, if we are looking at this as a corrective structure, what we would then be on the lookout for is that if this is an A wave to the downside, we could see this become a B wave to the upside here, and then we could look for that continuation with a C wave to the downside. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. If we do see something like this, this would actually align in this this WXY potential, where we're actually looking for that possibility of seeing this C wave come down here between this 692 and this 478, if it's going to be looking to target out the 1-to-1s of either the A wave and the W wave there. So that would be looking at that possibility of continuation down. So we'd have to keep an eye on this. If we did have to see something like this, and we actually did move up into that level, which was that 1-to-1, what we'd actually be looking here for as a potential for this wave C would actually be this 1091 level. So that would be looking at this as A, this is B, and then looking for that C wave to the downside. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. If we do start to push down here, this could just be a simple corrective move where we see this move down in 3 waves, in which case there is a couple of potentials here that this could still be that A, B, and then we still see that C wave up. Or alternatively, we'd have to be careful that we aren't starting to form a more impulsive structure. Now, if we are looking at this count in this way, and we are saying that potentially we're looking for this corrective move to the upside here as a WXY, what we need to be careful of is, like I said, this could be potentially a B wave here if we actually face rejection between this 854 at this 2343 and this lower range, which we've already come into this golden pocket, this 1984 region. If, however, we do form this as another push to the upside here, and then we actually find support lower down above this 1434 and this 1282 level, what we could see is this could actually then become A, this could become B, and then we'd still be looking for that potential of a bigger corrective structure to the upside. So we're going to have to be a bit patient with this one. If we do see that impulsive count starting to play out, then that will confirm by hitting those targets. But if we start to just see this develop as a corrective move, we could actually see, that continuation down in a C wave, or alternatively we find support up here and then look to push up one more time, all still being corrective, meaning that we're going to actually break down at a later date. Now, the thing we need to be cautious of here, and I'm going to go over why I don't like this count so much, but technically it is possible. We could still argue that this is 1-2 here, and that we could actually have this as another 1-2. Now, the reason I don't like this is this wave 2 over here of the lesser degree is smaller than this wave 2 of the higher degree here. But this can happen sometimes, particularly if we're going to get a big extension within the third wave. What we can see is this secondary wave 2 can become quite big. Now, if we are looking at something like this, what we'd be looking out for is the potential that until we actually cross this 2230 level, we could see price look to actually break down in a bigger third wave. So off this current high, that target would actually be here at this 817. If we do see price actually start to fall off in a bigger way here in 5 waves, what I would be on the lookout for is that this could become 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into this point here, this 753 to this 660, and then we'd be looking for an additional 4th and a 5th. Now, the important thing to remember here when we're looking for impulses is even if we do see a push down towards this 817, we need to see confirmation of that 3-wave move up for this 4th. That is going to be always key when we're looking for impulses. We need to wait for the confirmation of the 4th and then looking to break that low to indicate that we are within that 5th wave. So that is looking for that possibility of a direct breakdown here. Now, this would actually look to sweep this low here, which we have of this $8, and could potentially push us down into this this lower target box that we have here, which is sitting quite, it's from this 520 pretty much all the way down here. We've got some levels that are within there that could be quite interesting to keep an eye on. So I'm actually just going to turn those on for a second. What we do have is towards the upper end of this, we've got this 381 and this 350, which aligns with some of the structure to the left hand side. So these are weekly and monthly naked points of control sitting up higher here. So if we do see a move deeper down here, possibly we could start to see price push down into some of these lower levels. So we need to just be careful of that. If we see a 5-wave move down here, it could mean that we are actually going to see a little bit of extension. Alternatively, this could actually be that idea that we talked about earlier, where it is actually just a C wave, and we are looking at this just within this WXY, where this becomes A, this becomes B, and then we're looking for our 5-wave move. Now, if we look at this yellow count here, we can see that this 5th wave target area would actually be between this 1-to-1 and this 1-to-1 of the W wave. So it would be quite an interesting zone if we do move down into that level. Now, I just want to talk about this range that we have locally here. We do have this area up here, which is the value area high, which is sitting towards this zone of this 2270 region. Now, this is also just above this target box that we have here. As well as that, they would be potentially looking for that possibility of a swing failure off this high here if we're going to look to continue to break down. And then we could actually see, that continuation down. As well as that, we do have an area of high volume here between this sort of, really it's from this 2024 all the way up towards this area here of this 2137. So I'd be careful of this. There's been a lot of consolidation in this area. Now that we're coming back up into this, if we actually retest the bottom of this, fail to actually break through, we could see price start to fall away. If we find support above this low, then potentially we could see another corrective move to the upside, something like this. Alternatively, if we do look to break down here and lose this low, both of those bullish counts start to become less likely. And then, the only way that we could potentially then look for a possibility of a turnaround is we'd have to argue this is WXY, possibly another X and a Z wave to the downside, which might protect the low. But once we start breaking into those lower ranges there, we need to be very careful, because the idea is within this, if we're looking for this A and this B and then that continuation up, we don't really want to lose this lower range here of this 1033. If we start to lose that, it becomes less likely we're going to continue, particularly if we actually break down below this level and start consolidating below it. that typically means that we're actually going to see that continuation to the downside here. Looking at the daily CPR, what we can see is that we actually found support on these daily CPRs. These are quite tight, which is indicating a bit of volatility here. We have come up to this S1 line. If we do move back down here, I would be interested to see if these actually act as support, this area of this 1862 to this 1846, where if we see that three-wave move down here, potentially we could look to find support here. Alternatively, if we do look to reverse to the upside here, we have the target of this S2, which would be interesting as a potential test of this high at this 1964. We have this 2027, this 2074 as upside targets here. As well as that, to the downside, what we have is this R1 at this 1807, this R2 at this 1845, this R3 at this 1697, and this R4 towards this 1634 region. So this would be looking at that possibility of that potential of actually, getting a bigger corrective move to the downside here, where we start to fall off a little bit. So gonna have to be keeping an eye on this. If we do start to break down in that bigger way, potentially we could see some interaction with these levels and possibly some bounces. Now, the weekly pivots are showing us as we actually come back through this zone here of this S2. We have met these two targets to the upside already this week, and we will get new lines printed as of tomorrow. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on these to see where these next ones form. If we did see price actually break down deeper today, where this becomes A, B, and C, and we actually see a move down, potentially these central lines between the 1684 and the 1655 level could potentially offer us support, as well as this area here of this S1 at this $18. Potentially this could look for a retest. We're going to find a double bottom here and then look for that continuation up. If we do move down low, we have the R2 at this 1432 and this 1328. Now flipping over to the monthly, because we've got some new monthly lines printed here. What we can see is that currently we are holding these central CPR lines. If we continue to hold these central CPR lines, what we could see here is price could actually start to be gravitated to the upside here, in which case we would be looking for the potential of coming up into this S1 line here, this 2323. We have the S2 at this 2750, S3 at the 3267 level as possible targets throughout this month. If, however, we start to see price falter and we start to fall underneath these lines, we need to be cautious of that potential that we could actually see a retest of the R1 line, which is sitting here towards this 1369, and then we have some lower targets here with our R2 line being at this 848 and our R3 line being all the way down here at this 419. So that would tie in with that idea of actually having a much bigger sell-off here. Doesn't mean that we have to reach these targets throughout the month, but these are just potential pivot points within the price action if it does move down into those levels. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description, you'll find a link to Discord. Come check it out. It is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.